I never thought planning my wedding would turn into a family civil war. Emma and I were so excited about our perfect vineyard venue, the honeymoon plans, and starting our life together. Then my younger brother Kyle found out that Jason, Emma's best friend, since medical school, would be serving as best man. The problem? Apparently Jason was Kyle's high school tormentor. Now Kyle is threatening to skip our wedding entirely, unless we replace Jason with him. The ultimatum has divided our entire family. Before I share how our wedding plans turned into a family civil war, let me know where you are watching from, and click that subscribe button if you have ever had to navigate family drama during what should be the happiest time of your life. I have always been the responsible one in my family. At 32 years old, I built a successful career as an architect at one of Chicago's premier design firms. My life was focused on work until 3 years ago when I met Emma at a charity gala for the Children's Hospital where she works as a pediatric surgeon. It was one of those rare instances where you lock eyes with someone across a crowded room and somehow know your life is about to change forever. Emma was brilliant, compassionate, and possessed a subtle humor that caught me off guard. While I designed buildings, she saved lives, yet we found common ground in our dedication to our crafts and desire to make meaningful contributions to the world. Our relationship progressed naturally from coffee dates to weekend getaways and finally to sharing a downtown apartment with views of Lake Michigan. When I proposed last year at the same lakefront spot where we had our first date, Emma's joyful acceptance made me feel like the luckiest man alive. Our families seemed equally thrilled. My parents, though, divorced since I was a teenager, both expressed genuine happiness. My younger brother Kyle congratulated us warmly, even offering to help with wedding preparations. The problems began when we started finalizing our wedding party. Emma immediately knew she wanted Jason, her best friend since their first day of medical school orientation, to stand beside her as her man of honor. They had been inseparable throughout their medical training, with Jason supporting her through grueling residency schedules and Emma helping him navigate difficult relationships. Though they briefly dated during their first year of medical school, they quickly realized they were better as friends. I had met Jason many times and genuinely appreciated how he had been there for Emma during the toughest periods of her career. I chose my college roommate Derek as my best man. We had remained close over the years, despite living in different states, and he knew Emma well enough to give a thoughtful speech. The rest of our wedding party consisted of my sister Melissa, 2 of Emma's cousins, and a couple of mutual friends. The engagement dinner was meant to be a relaxed evening where our wedding party could meet and get to know each other better. We reserved a private room at our favorite Italian restaurant, ordered several bottles of wine, and looked forward to introducing our closest friends to one another. I will never forget the moment Kyle walked in and saw Jason standing by the bar. My brother stopped dead in his tracks, his face draining of all color. At first I thought he might be feeling ill, but then his expression transformed into pure rage. "What the hell is he doing here?" Kyle demanded, pointing directly at Jason. Emma looked confused. "Kyle, this is my best friend Jason. He is going to be standing with me during the ceremony." Jason stepped forward, extending his hand. "Hey Kyle, it has been a long time. Good to see you again." The explosion that followed stunned everyone in the room. Good to see me, Kyle's voice rose with each word. "You made my life a living hell for 4 years, and now you are going to be in my brother's wedding. No way. Absolutely no way." The room fell silent as Kyle continued his tirade, detailing how Jason and his friends had systematically targeted him throughout high school, mocking his acne, his interest in science fiction, and his lack of athletic ability. Jason stood frozen, his outstretched hand slowly dropping to his side. I had no idea what to say. I looked at Emma, whose face reflected my own shock. Jason remained silent, looking increasingly uncomfortable as Kyle continued. "I am not going to watch this sadistic jerk stand up there on the happiest day of my brother's life," Kyle finally declared before storming out of the restaurant, slamming the door behind him. The dinner continued in awkward silence. Jason attempted to explain that high school was a long time ago, and he was a different person now, but the damage was done. Emma looked heartbroken, caught between loyalty to her best friend and concern for her future brother-in-law. I spent the rest of the dinner in a daze, wondering how I could have been so unaware of my brother's suffering and worried about what this meant for our wedding plans. As guests began to leave, I promised Emma I would talk to Kyle and figure things out. I had no idea that this was just the beginning of the drama. For 3 days after the disastrous dinner, Kyle ignored all my calls and texts. I drove to his apartment twice, but he refused to answer the door. Finally, on the 4th day, he responded to my message saying he would meet me at a local diner, but only to explain why he could never be in the same room as Jason again. When I arrived, Kyle was already there, looking like he had barely slept. As I sat down across from him, he launched into his story without preamble. "You were already in college when it started," he explained. "Jason and his friends targeted me from the first day of freshman year. It was not just normal teasing, Vance. They put rotten food in my locker. They created a fake social media profile pretending to be me, posting humiliating things. They invited me to parties that did not exist, so I would show up alone at empty venues." As Kyle continued describing the systematic bullying, I felt physically ill. One incident involved Jason and his friends cornering Kyle in the locker room after gym class, taking his clothes and forcing him to walk to the office in just his underwear. Another time, they hacked his email account and sent embarrassing messages to teachers. The torment continued throughout all 4 years of high school, affecting Kyle's grades, social development, and self-esteem. "Why did you never tell me?" I asked, feeling a wave of guilt wash over me. "You were busy with your architecture program. Mom and Dad were in the middle of their divorce." "I did not want to add to everyone's problems," Kyle said quietly. "Besides, would you have believed that the popular smart kid was secretly tormenting your little brother?" I had no answer. Would I have believed him, or would I have dismissed it as normal high school drama? The truth was, I had been so focused on my own life that I had barely paid attention to Kyle's high school experience. After talking with Kyle, I immediately called Emma. I explained everything Kyle had told me, feeling my stomach twist as I recounted the painful details. "I need to talk to Jason," she said after a long silence. "This does not sound like the person I know." The next day, Emma called me back. She had spoken to Jason, who admitted that he had indeed bullied Kyle and several other students during high school. He says he was going through a really difficult time after his father's suicide, but that it is no excuse for how he behaved, Emma explained. He wants to apologize to Kyle in person. He says he has been working on himself for years in therapy to become a better person. I arranged a meeting at a neutral coffee shop. I hoped that if Jason could sincerely apologize, and if Kyle could see that people can change, we might find a way forward. I was wrong. The meeting lasted less than 5 minutes. Jason began with what seemed to be a heartfelt apology, acknowledging the specific ways he had hurt Kyle. But Kyle was not interested. "You think saying sorry erases 4 years of torture," Kyle interrupted. "You think I care that your dad killed himself. That did not give you the right to destroy my high school years. I cannot believe my brother is associating with someone like you." With that, Kyle stood up and left, ignoring my pleas to stay and talk things through. Jason sat silently, looking defeated. "I understand his anger," he said finally. "I was cruel to him and to others. I have spent years trying to become a different person, but I cannot blame him for not wanting me at the wedding." The situation became even more complicated when Derek, my original best man, called to tell me he had accepted a last-minute job transfer to London and would be moving before our wedding. He was devastated about missing the event, but the opportunity was too good to pass up. When I told Emma about Derek's news, she suggested that Jason could step in as best man. In the moment, focused on solving a practical problem, I agreed without thinking through the ramifications. When Kyle found out that Jason was not only still in the wedding party but had been promoted to best man, his reaction was explosive. He called me more furious than I had ever heard him. "Your wife's best friend is more important than your own brother. I should be your best man, not the guy who made me contemplate suicide in high school." His words hit me like a physical blow. Suicide Kyle had never mentioned that the bullying had driven him to such dark thoughts. Before I could respond, he delivered his ultimatum: either make him best man instead of Jason, or he would not attend the wedding at all. The situation quickly spiraled out of control. My parents, though divorced for years, united in their support of Kyle. My mother called to tell me I was being insensitive to my brother's trauma. My father sent a lengthy email explaining that family should always come first, and that Emma should understand why Jason's presence was inappropriate. Meanwhile, Emma's parents were equally vocal about their perspective. They had known Jason for years and had witnessed his growth into a compassionate doctor who volunteered at homeless shelters and mentored at-risk youth. They argued that one should not be judged forever by their teenage behavior, especially when genuine remorse and change had occurred. Emma and I began arguing about the situation. For the first time in our relationship, we found ourselves on opposite sides of a conflict with no clear resolution. Jason has been there for me through everything Emma said during one particularly heated discussion. He helped me study when I was failing pharmacology. He covered my shifts when my mom was in the hospital. He has changed Vance. The person Kyle describes is not the man I know. But Kyle is my brother, I countered. He says just seeing Jason brings back traumatic memories. How can I ask him to sit through our wedding watching his tormentor in a position of honor? We considered various compromises. What if both Jason and Kyle could be best men? Kyle flatly rejected this idea. Could Jason attend but not be in the wedding party? Emma felt this was unfair to someone so important in her life. Each potential solution satisfied one side while alienating the other. The stress began affecting other aspects of our lives. I made careless mistakes at work, missing deadlines and forgetting important client meetings. Emma was reprimanded at the hospital for being distracted during rounds. Our relationship, once a source of joy and comfort, became tense and fraught with resentment. Just when I thought things could not get worse, Jason called to offer a solution I had not expected. "I will step down," he said simply. "Your wedding should be a happy day, not overshadowed by old wounds I caused. I will attend as a guest if Kyle can tolerate that. Or I will skip the ceremony entirely if that is what it takes." When I told Emma about Jason's offer, she burst into tears. "Why is everyone acting like Jason is the villain in this story now?" she asked. "He has spent years making amends for who he was as a teenager. Kyle is the one making ultimatums and threatening to ruin our wedding if he does not get his way. Why are you not standing up to him?" Her words stung because there was truth in them. Was I enabling Kyle's inflexibility by trying so hard to accommodate him? But then again, was it fair to minimize his genuine trauma? The breaking point came during a family dinner at my parents' home. Emma and I agreed to meet with my parents, Kyle, and my sister Melissa to try to find a resolution. From the moment we arrived, I could feel the tension in the air. My mother had prepared all my childhood favorites, an obvious attempt to remind me of family loyalty. My father kept making pointed comments about how he had always put family first, unlike some people. Kyle sat sullenly at the far end of the table, barely acknowledging Emma when she attempted to make conversation. The facade of civility crumbled when my mother brought up the wedding directly. "I just cannot understand why you would choose someone who hurt your brother over your own blood," she said, serving dessert with unnecessary force. "After everything we have done for you, Vance." "This is not about choosing sides," I tried to explain. "This is about recognizing that people can change, that adult relationships are complicated." "You have always been selfish," Kyle interjected. "Always too busy with your fancy career and perfect girlfriend to care about what happens to me. This is just more of the same." "That is not fair," Emma said, her voice trembling slightly. "Vance has been trying to find a solution that works for everyone. He loves you, Kyle." "If he loved me, Jason would already be out of the wedding," Kyle shot back. What followed was a chaotic eruption of grievances that seemed to have little to do with Jason or the wedding. My parents brought up instances from years ago, when they felt I had prioritized my career over family obligations. Kyle listed times when he believed I had failed to support him adequately. It became clear that the current conflict was merely the trigger for deeper resentments that had been building for years. Just as I was about to walk out, my sister Melissa, who had remained quiet throughout the evening, suddenly spoke up. "You are all being ridiculous," she said firmly. "Kyle, I was there in high school. I saw what Jason and his friends did to you, and it was awful. But I also saw Jason come to you during senior year to apologize. I was standing right there when he tried to make amends, and you told him to get lost." The table fell silent as all eyes turned to Kyle. "He only apologized because he needed a recommendation for a scholarship," Kyle muttered. "It was not sincere." "That is not true," Melissa insisted. "He sought you out multiple times. He even defended you when his friends were still being jerks. You have been holding on to this narrative that Jason never showed remorse, but that is simply not accurate. I stared at my sister in shock. Why was I only hearing this now? Why had Kyle never mentioned these attempts at reconciliation? The dinner ended abruptly when Kyle stormed out again, accusing Melissa of betrayal. Emma and I left shortly after the drive home, filled with tense silence. That night, as we lay awake in bed, Emma turned to me with tears in her eyes. "Maybe we should postpone the wedding until this is resolved," she suggested. "I do not want to start our marriage with this kind of division between our families." The thought of postponing the wedding we had spent months planning was devastating, but I understood her concern. This conflict was poisoning what should have been a joyful time in our lives. Just as I was sinking into despair, my phone rang. It was my Uncle Richard, who had essentially raised me after my parents' divorce turned bitter. I had always valued his wisdom and perspective. "Your mother called me," he explained. "She is worried about this wedding situation." I found myself pouring out the whole story, all the conflicts and complications, the impossible position I felt caught in. "Vance," he said after listening patiently, "family loyalty is important, but it has to have limits. You cannot sacrifice your own happiness or Emma's to appease Kyle's refusal to move forward. It sounds like his issues go beyond this wedding." "But how can I choose between my brother and my fiancé?" I asked. "You are not choosing between them. You are choosing to have boundaries about how much control others can have over your life decisions. Kyle's ultimatum is not about protection from trauma. It is about control." His words resonated with me deeply. For the first time, I saw clearly that by trying to please everyone, I was pleasing no one, least of all myself and Emma. The next morning, I texted Kyle asking to meet him at the small fishing dock where we had spent countless hours together as kids. It was neutral territory, a place with good memories for both of us. When Kyle arrived at the fishing dock, his defensive posture told me he was expecting another argument. Instead, I handed him a soda, just like our father used to do when he brought us fishing, and sat quietly beside him. "Remember when you fell in the lake trying to grab that huge bass?" I asked finally. "Dad was so mad about the fishing rod you lost, but so proud you almost caught that fish." Kyle nodded, a reluctant smile tugging at his lips. He grounded me for a week, but told everyone his son almost caught the biggest bass in the lake. We sat in companionable silence for a few minutes, watching the sunlight dance across the water. Then I turned to face my brother directly. "Kyle, I need you to hear me out completely before you respond." "Can you do that?" He hesitated, then nodded. "I love you. You are my brother, and nothing changes that. I am sorry I was not there for you in high school. I am sorry I did not know about the bullying, and I am sorry I did not protect you. That will always be a regret of mine." Kyle's expression softened slightly, but he remained silent, as promised. "I also love Emma, and she loves Jason like a brother. He has been her rock through medical school and beyond. The man he is today is not the boy who hurt you. People change, Kyle. They grow up, they realize their mistakes and try to be better." Kyle opened his mouth to object, but I held up my hand. "You do not have to forgive Jason. You do not have to like him. You do not even have to talk to him at the wedding. But I am asking you, as your brother who loves you, to find a way to be there on the most important day of my life." "Why should I be the one to compromise?" Kyle asked, his voice tight with emotion. "Why am I always expected to just get over things, while everyone else gets what they want?" His question struck at the heart of what I had come to realize over the past few weeks. This is not about just getting over it, Kyle. This is about recognizing that your pain is real, but it does not give you the right to control my wedding. I think there is more going on here than just Jason. Kyle looked away, staring out at the water. "You have always been the golden child," he said quietly. "The successful one. The one with the perfect career and the perfect fiancé. Everyone is so proud of Vance, so impressed by Vance. And what am I, the little brother who cannot even get a date to his brother's wedding?" The raw honesty in his voice made my chest ache. I had never realized how much he felt overshadowed by me. How much he felt he had to compete for attention and validation. "Kyle, you are brilliant in ways I could never be. Your work in software development is changing how people interact with technology. You have friends who would take a bullet for you. You have so much to be proud of, but you cannot see it because you are still letting high school define you. We talked for hours, really talked in a way we had not done since we were teenagers. Kyle admitted that seeing Jason succeed as a doctor while he still struggled with confidence and relationships had reopened old wounds. I acknowledged that I had been so focused on my own life that I had failed to be the brother he needed. By the time the sun began to set, we had reached an understanding. Kyle would attend the wedding with Jason as best man, but he would give a special toast at the reception as my brother. It was not a perfect solution, but it was a start. What I did not expect was for Jason to independently reach out to Kyle again. This time, instead of a public apology, Jason sent a private letter detailing his remorse for his past behavior, the therapy he had undergone to address his issues, and his understanding if Kyle could never forgive him. He asked nothing in return, not even acknowledgement. Kyle never told me what was in the letter, but a week later he called to let me know he had responded to Jason. They would never be friends, he said, but he could be civil for one day, for my sake. The wedding day arrived with tentative peace between all parties. Kyle looked handsome in his groomsman's suit, standing proudly beside my other friends. Jason performed his best man duties with grace, keeping a respectful distance from Kyle throughout the day. The most surprising moment came during the reception when Kyle stood to give his toast. Instead of the brief obligatory speech, I expected he spoke movingly about watching me grow from his protective older brother into a man worthy of Emma's love. He praised her kindness and intelligence, never once alluding to the conflict that had nearly derailed our celebration. Jason's speech that followed was equally gracious. He thanked my family for welcoming Emma into their lives and acknowledged Kyle's important role as my brother and support system. The subtle nod of respect between them might have been missed by most guests, but it meant everything to Emma and me. As we danced our first dance as husband and wife, I realized that the past weeks of conflict had taught me something important about family. True loyalty is not about blindly taking sides or making demands. It is about wanting happiness for those you love, even when it is complicated. In the month since our wedding, Kyle has started therapy to address his lingering insecurities from high school. He and Jason will never be friends, but they have reached a kind of truce. My relationship with my parents has improved as well, with clearer boundaries and more honest communication. Sometimes the most painful conflicts lead to the most necessary growth. Our wedding crisis forced conversations that should have happened years ago, bringing to light hurts and expectations that had festered in silence. In addressing them, we found a way forward not just for our wedding day, but for our relationships in the years to come. Have you ever had to navigate complex family dynamics during important life events? How did you handle conflicting loyalties and old wounds that resurfaced? Share your experience in the comments below, and let me know if you found a resolution that preserved both relationships and personal boundaries. Do not forget to like and subscribe for more stories about navigating family relationships through challenging times. And if you know someone struggling with similar issues, please share this video with them. Remember, sometimes the hardest conversations lead to the strongest connections. Thank you for watching, and I wish you wisdom and courage in your own family journeys.